Ukraine just deployed exoskeletons on the front line, not in a lab, not in a defense expo, in combat. And somehow the country fighting for survival is field testing wearable military tech faster than the United States. Hey friends, Wes here, and I have this theory about my Army service, totally unscientific and based only on my experience. The constant physical stress I subjected my body to for a solid decade, about 20 years old to about 30 years old, put me in the best shape of my life through my 30s. Running, rappelling, hiking with rucks, quick bursts of speed when it was time to shoot and move, swimming, and of course the normal daily time dedicated to PT, as if we needed it. But when I hit 40, the butcher's bill came due. Now my life is constant pain, and it feels like I can pull a back muscle simply by reaching for a Dr. Pepper. And by the way, I was the light infantry, 11 Bravo. Imagine what those artillery guys go through. I watched artillery crews do things to their bodies that no physical therapist would ever sign off on. Loading 155mm rounds all day is exactly as brutal as it sounds, each shell weighing roughly 50 kilograms. Crews running 15 to 30 of them per shift, day after day, in conditions that make the CrossFit gym crowd look like they're doing a mild warm-up. It's actually surprising to me that it's 2026 and what was the most technologically advanced military on the planet, the US military, still goes to war in cloth uniforms with no mechanical assistance. Well, Ukraine, never one to let a good tech idea rot on the shelf, may claim the mantle as the new most technologically advanced military on the planet. And they deserve it. At current operational tempo, Ukraine's 147th Brigade crews are carrying up to 30 shells per day at approximately 1,200 kilograms of ammunition per soldier per day. That's a small car's worth of high explosives, manually humped to a howitzer by one man while someone is trying very hard to kill you. Now, Ukraine has just deployed exoskeletons to fix that on the front line, in live combat. This week, Ukraine's 7th Rapid Reaction Corps of the Air Assault Forces became the first unit in the country's defense forces to deploy exoskeletons in real combat conditions, with test samples already in use at logistics and combat positions. The unit receiving them is the 147th Separate Artillery Brigade, the same outfit running French Caesar self-propelled howitzers and Ukrainian-made Bodana BG towed 155mm systems on one of the most contested sections of the front line. Pokrovsk has been under sustained Russian pressure for months. This isn't a quiet corner of the war where you'd want to test new equipment, but that's exactly the point. The system is a leg exoskeleton designed as rigid arcs with hinged joints along the thighs and the knees, built from aluminum alloy and weighing 2 kilograms. It buckles at the waist and the legs, wraps behind the user's back, and features 2 hip actuators that serve as hinges. The whole thing folds into a briefcase, which is good because anytime you add weight to a soldier, they're gonna complain, and that added weight usually gets shedded. According to the Ukrainian captions in this video, it has 10 intelligent operating modes, operates over a temperature range of -10 to 60 degrees Celsius, reaches an assisted movement speed of up to 20 kilometers per hour, and supports assisted walking up to 17.5 kilometers. The AI mode adapts in real time to the load on the soldier's legs and spine. Colonel Vitaly Serdyuk, the 7th Corps Deputy Commander, said what the numbers already tell you. Quote, "According to test results, they became less fatigued, worked faster, and maintained combat effectiveness for longer." Less fatigued, faster, combat effective for longer. Yeah, that's what he said. On a front where Russia is trying to grind forward at 70 meters a day, trying to outlast Ukrainian resolve. But it's worth remembering, yes, this is a drone war, but artillery is the dominant arm of the Ukraine war. Russia fires somewhere between 10,000 and 20,000 rounds per day at Ukrainian positions. Ukraine fires considerably fewer. The munitions shortage has been real and persistent, but every round matters at a rate that's hard to overstate. The crews operating the Caesar howitzers and the Bodana systems are working at a pace that would have been considered extraordinary in any previous conflict. For crews of the Ukrainian-made Bodana BG towed howitzer, shells must be lifted to a greater height, without a dedicated loader, which means a human being is manually performing a full body lift of a 50-kilogram round over and over and over again. The physics and the kinesiology of that are exactly as ugly as it sounds. Cumulative physical degradation in artillery crews is real. It's an operational problem, and it doesn't show up in briefings the same way vehicle losses do, but it absolutely shows up in sustained combat effectiveness over weeks and months, not to mention the long-term wear and tear on these soldiers' bodies post-war. An exoskeleton that reduces leg muscle load by 30% and cuts fatigue meaningfully is a direct contribution to rate of fire, to accuracy, and to the unit's capability to sustain operations at tempo. But let's talk about Ukraine's techno-assault concept. And no, I'm not talking about the The 7th core framing here is worth paying attention to because the exoskeleton deployment isn't a one-off like some American military programs. The core frames the introduction of such technologies as part of developing the, quote, techno-air assault capabilities, a concept focused on using state-of-the-art systems in air assault operations. This is the same core that trains soldiers to counter Russian FPV drone attacks using virtual reality headsets and a special dummy pump-action shotgun, which is either the most interesting training aid in any military inventory right now or the most terrifying depending on your perspective. Ukraine thinks about war like this, where human bodies are the limiting factor, insert technology. Where human attention is the bottleneck, use AI. Where human endurance degrades under sustained combat, find a mechanical solution. Ukraine doesn't have Russia's manpower pool. It's been operating on that constraint since February of 2022. The response has been to make each soldier more capable rather than simply adding more soldiers, which is both born of necessity and brilliant doctrine. Where's the US on exoskeletons, by the way? Well, since we're talking about exosuits, it's worth noting where America's own programs stand because the contrast is instructive. The US Army's Sabre is a soft, wearable exosuit strapped to the back and around each leg, designed to reduce spinal strain. Lockheed Martin's Onyx is a lower body exoskeleton with knee actuators. Now, neither system is standard issue for American forces. Both exist in the research and development phase. The American tech pipeline is kind of infuriating, but it takes so long to get this technology from blueprint to the battlefield. Meanwhile, Ukraine's 147th Artillery Brigade is running a 2-kilogram aluminum exoskeleton with AI adaptive modes and a mobile app in a live combat zone right now. I'm not saying Ukraine's system is more advanced than what Lockheed or the Army's research labs are building. I'm saying Ukraine's system is on the Pokrovsk front and the American systems aren't. That distinction between fielded and promising is the same one that keeps coming up in every technology comparison between this war and Western procurement timelines. Ukraine skips the comfortable middle phase and goes straight to live testing under the worst possible conditions. The cost of Ukraine's exoskeleton, for context, amounts to a few hundred to a few $1,000s per unit. So Ukraine's is faster, cheaper, and on the battlefield right now. Got it. Compared to the US, where until very recently the average US infantryman was still using an AR-style assault rifle from before Vietnam. And since we're talking about Ukrainian tech, Ukraine has also received 2 Phantom Mk1 humanoid robots for battlefield evaluation. One of the first real-world tests of humanoid soldier technology anywhere. The exoskeleton deployment and the humanoid robot evaluation are happening simultaneously on the same front, driven by the same logic. The country that runs out of capable soldiers first loses. Now that logic should be familiar to anyone who's watched how Ukraine has approached every other technology gap in this war. It couldn't match Russia's artillery, so it built drones. It couldn't replace its lost armor fast enough, so it developed cheap anti-armor systems and layered drone tactics. It couldn't sustain strike campaigns with scarce ATACMS rounds, so it built the Flamingo. Every constraint has produced an innovative response, usually faster and cheaper than any Western procurement process would have allowed. Now, the exoskeleton is the same pattern applied to the most fundamental resource in the army, the body of the soldier. Colonel Serdyuk put it in terms that any veteran can understand. Every minute matters, every shot matters, and a soldier who's less exhausted shoots better and sustains longer. The technology doesn't replace the artilleryman, it just keeps him functional for the entire shift, instead of degrading through it. But more importantly, this war will end someday, and hopefully some of Ukraine's soldiers won't have to feel the pain that many of us aging veterans live with. Okay, that's it for today, my friends. If you found this video helpful, inspiring, funny, or educational, consider subscribing. It does help the channel grow, and believe it or not, the more human creators like me that you subscribe to, it really does let the bigwigs over at YouTube know that you prefer humans over AI robots. Hey, if you like robots, I'm not judging you. Get your freak on. And as always, glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. Crimea is Ukraine.